Alright guys, Season of the Haunted is upon us and has brought about a whole list of new weapons as well as exotics. Today we're going to go through each one of these and talk about roles to potentially look for on all of them. So buckle up and let's start with Trespasser. Now we actually did a live review of this sidearm. This is actually a Destiny 1 sidearm. But I gotta say guys, it is way better than what it was back in Destiny 1. Coming with the exotic perk, Unrepentant, where reloading after defeating a target grants a super burst. And the trait on the weapon is called Be the Danger, stating that unrepentant final blows refund unrepentant. Essentially guys, it auto reloads the weapon every single time you get a kill with unrepentant active. And again, if you have not checked out a review, feel free to check that one out. Moving on, we have Firefright. This is a kinetic auto rifle as one of the haunted weapons for this season. Beautiful gun, by the way. Shoots at 450 rounds per minute. And right off the bat, we have some things to discuss. First, we have the origin trait Extrovert. Final blows while near multiple combatants or near nightmares restore health. Very interesting one, right? Considering the amount of nightmares we're taking on this season. Now, we have some new traits here that we're going to be picking up on. One of them is this trait called Well-Rounded. Throwing a grenade or hitting a target with a charged melee grants a stacking bonus to weapon stability, handling, and range. And it states that using a super grants maximum stacks. Now, the question I have is, of course, what is the duration here? But considering all the different abilities we have this season, especially with Solar 3.0, whether you're using the snap attack, with your melee ability for my warlocks, or you're throwing a mini hammer, or any grenade for that matter, this doesn't seem like a hard trait to proc. We also have Fragile Focus, where the weapon gains bonus range until the wielder takes damage. The bonus returns when no damage is taken for a short duration. Now, this is an interesting one, and one that I'm not really too keen about, considering that we have perks like Opening Shot, which not only boosts range, but also boosts accuracy. Needless to say, this perk is gonna have to show me something a little more special. We also have the Return of Air Assault. This was actually a D2 perk back in Black Armory, and it was a garbage perk. But essentially, the weapon gains increased airborne effectiveness as your health gets lower. Now, it says it grants up to 60 airborne effectiveness, which, by the way, is quite a bit. But again, this is as your health goes lower. So again, how often will we be able to actually take advantage of Air Assault? Now, the trait combinations here, considering this is a 450 round per minute auto rifle with the origin trait Extrovert, I'm actually looking at Surrounded there with 4 times the charm. I'm curious, right? If we push up close enough to our combatants and we're getting kills, and we have, say, Surrounded spec, we might be able to make this work. Now, the weapon also comes with Adagio, and I know no one's really that crazy about Adagio, as it does slow our rate of fire. For auto rifles, that's actually a minus 20% there and drop in rate of fire, but you are looking at about a 30% increase in damage. Now, for PvP, I think Elemental Capacitor with that well-rounded traits is an interesting one to try. Granted, we'll see, is a 450, so it's not exactly meta, but I will say, considering how sexy this auto rifle is, my god, I want it to be meta. Moving on, we have the Luna Lada. This is actually a stasis bow and a lightweight frame one at that. And yes, it's a vice bow. By the way, pretty sure the gunsmith gives you one of these directly if you're looking to just get one picked up. Now, again, the Vice Stinger origin trait is one of my favorite. Essentially, damaging an enemy with the weapon has a small chance to reload the magazine. It also increases movement speed and aim down sights. But for bows specifically, they receive faster draw speed, which should be very interesting here on Luna Lada. Now, considering that this is a stasis bow, obviously the go-to trait to me is going to be Headstone. Now, the thing I'm wondering about Headstone is like, yo, what if you actually hit a precision final blow? It spawns a stasis crystal. The crystal explodes and it kills a target. Would that kill proc Vice Stinger? Again, something we got to test. Another great trait is, of course, Successful Warm-Up. One of my favorite traits on the bow last season. Successful Warm-Up greatly increases that draw speed. This in combination with Vice Stinger, you can see where we're going with this. But again, Headstone is kind of the one I'm going for. Now, that first column of traits for PvE, guys, I gotta say, man, Shoot to Loot is such an underrated perk. And it wasn't until last week when we had the Palindrome farm on the Scarlet Keep where suddenly everyone was scrambling to get a Shoot to Loot weapon for that cheese. If you can sit back from afar, Shoot to Loot is one of the best weapon perks to have to just reload the rest of your guns without ever having to put yourself in danger. Outside of that, if you're hugging your teammates' nutsacks, then obviously Ensemble in combination with Successful Warm-Up or even Headstone is going to be really, really good. Now, the trait combination that looks pretty interesting for me is Well-Rounded and Golden Tricorn. Golden Tricorn, which grants damage buffs from grenade or melee kills of the same damage type, and if you're expending your grenade and melee, Well-Rounded is also proccing. So again, some interesting combinations here that can work very nicely for Luna Lada. Next up, we have Burden of Guilt. This is the Stasis Fusion Rifle for Trials of Osiris, and it's in the adaptive frame. We don't have many of these left, right? Now, being a Trials weapon, it of course has the origin trait Alacrity, a very, very good trait that bugs out and procs even when you're not solo. You also have One Quiet Moment, which bumps that reload speed when you're out of combat. that. But being an adaptive frame, for PvP, I'm already looking at successful warm-up perpetual motion. And if not that, maybe high impact reserves and perpetual motion. Again, though, it's been a while since I used adaptives, so I'd have to really sit down to see how much high impact actually benefits it. I will say this, though, considering that most fusion rifles should be feeling worse than they did previously due to the overall recoil nerf, being an adaptive frame may actually be the go-to archetype. But for PvE, Vorpal is always a good one to have. And you also have Chill Clip. Now, you can do Chill Clip perpetual motion or even Chill Clip stats for all. And again, spreading out the shots and bolts of these fusion rifles, hitting multiple targets at once, it's not a hard thing to do with fusions, right? Thus, proccing stats for all pretty often. Outside of that, I am looking at this well-rounded swashbuckler combination, expending your melee, getting that 33% damage buff in combination with the weapon stability and handling and range there from well-rounded. Lots to test here. Moving on, we have Riptide, another legendary fusion rifle that is also stasis. Now, this one's already being praised, but man, does it have a ton of different traits. Good luck getting the god roll on this one. This is a rapid fire frame fusion though, and it does have some combinations that interest me. Vorpal, Feeding Frenzy, Vorpal, Fill Prep, Vorpal, Auto-Loading Holster. You also have Cornered, Successful Warm-Up, Frenzy, Golden Tricorn, and of course Chill Clip. Lots of great PvE trait combinations that we can choose from. Now for PvP, Lightly Suspect has been my baby for a very long time. However, I really don't know how rapids are feeling in this current sandbox. They normally have a lot of recoil. To combat that, I do think that Under Pressure is a top tier perk. And the combination of Under Pressure, Successful Warm-Up may be the combination you're looking for. Again though, fusion rifles are supposed to be feeling a lot different now, so even that role might not be enough to make it a meta option inside of PvP. Either way it goes, for PvE, this fusion rifle is looking pretty stacked. Moving on, we have Austringer. Guys, I actually landed a god roll of this earlier when opening up one of those opulent chests. By the way, if you haven't checked out our guide for opulent keys, chests, reputation with Crown of Sorrow, feel free to check that one out. Austringer, though, was one of the most popular hand cannons back in the day. This is a kinetic weapon, and it's a 140 round per minute hand cannon at that. Now, it comes with the origin trait to excess. Final blows of the weapon while your super is full grant a bonus to strength and discipline for a moderate duration. We also have an artifact mod that synergizes with this. Now, the roll that I landed that I said was a god roll was this snapshot rangefinder high caliber round roll. Now, this is a very, very good roll in terms of snappiness, proccing rangefinder at all times, getting that very high range from it, and of course the flinch there from high caliber rounds. Granted though, if I could choose, I would actually take Eye of the Storm rangefinder. And if I didn't want rangefinder, maybe Eye of the Storm opening shot. Opening shot is so good with that bump there in range as well as accuracy. Eye of the Storm, no matter where you're at in the middle of a gunfight, if you're taking too much heat, that perk will grab your reticle and shove it onto your opponent's face. I would actually take it over snapshot. And I feel like there's a lot of ways we can make our weapons feel snappier with targeting perks and of course other mods. Now, I want to give Air Assault a chance. I want to believe, man, maybe somewhere in another universe, someone is rocking Air Assault on their weapons and it is meta. And boy, would I love to see that. Now for PvE, all day long, Rampage, Outlaw, very, very good. And considering we have Demolitionist on this weapon and the Origin Strength grants a bonus to strength and discipline for a moderate duration, the combination here of Demolitionist and if you're rocking a grenade-based build should be really, really good. Outside of that, for PvE, Triple Tap, Rampage, always a great combination. And matter of fact, I would probably lean into Frenzy, maybe Frenzy, Outlaw for PvE. Overall, guys, very, very good hand cannon. To me, I like it more than even Eyes Luna. Moving on, another hand cannon that is returning to us via Nightfalls this season is D.F.A. Now, we've actually already seen a little bit of gameplay of D.F.A. It does come with the same origin traits from some of our other Nightfall weapons. Stunning recovery, where stunning a champion refreshes a percentage of your magazine and heals 60 HP and grants recovery for 3 seconds. Very, very good. You also have Vanguard's Vindication, which grants a small amount of health. Now, D.F.A. has a couple combinations I really want you to look at. First, Timed Payload Perpetual Motion. That is a beautiful one. Timed Payload for that flinch. I really do love the way payload perks work, but most notably Timed Payload for that split there in damage, which offers a lot of flinch. And I know that sometimes it does cause you to trade inside of PvP, but still, it makes up for it in those dueling moments. Now, if you didn't want that one, Perpetual Motion Opening Shot is very, very good. And one that I'm really curious about is this Fragile Focus in Opening Shot. Again, Fragile Focus boosts our range. However, Opening Shot also boosts our range. Now, there has been times in the past where certain weapons do hit a ceiling, and Opening Shot brings us to that ceiling more times than not. So the question is, does Opening Shot Fragile Focus, does it actually go beyond that cap? Now, for PvE, Vorpal all day long, and maybe even Vorpal Perpetual, or even Vorpal Triple Tap, or even Outlaw, very, very good. And again, Time Payload is very good inside of PvE. You also have Wellspring, which can feed into your abilities. And of course, Rampage with any of those combinations is still really nice. And I know we do have Focus Focus Fury. But again, I'm still not that crazy about Focus Fury. We'll see though. Moving on, we have Tears of Contrition, a beautiful scout rifle, one of the haunted weapons. This one also comes with that same extrovert origin trait, where final blows while near combatants or nightmares restore health. Now this is a little more difficult to actually proc, considering that this is a scout rifle. Regardless though, you probably see some combinations here that are giving you some nameless midnight vibes, most notably explosive payload on this thing. You can even do explosive payload, auto-loading holster, or explosive payload triple tap, which looks really, really good. You also have 4 times a charm triple tap, which I gotta say, Bungie's been starting to do these weird, quirky trait combinations, right? Like used to in the past, they would never do it. Now in that final trait column, I do think that Vorpal, explosive payload, those are the 2 mega perks. Maybe Focus Fury, but we'll have to see, man. For PvP though, 180s are in a tight spot. The only way to really make this weapon work in PvP is explosive payload perpetual motion. Maybe opening shot perpetual, but I would still take explosive. You're rocking a 180 here. You're looking at a 1 second time to kill value. You need something to help you flinch your enemy, and that payload perk will do that. Really, really though, this is a beautiful scout rifle. I don't believe we're going to take advantage of extrovert as often with this being a scout rifle, but in terms of what the scout rifle has to offer, it looks really, really good. Now the next weapon on the list is one that many thought was going to be Enyo, but instead it's a weapon that looks very similar to it, called Enyo-D. Now this is a 600 round per minute SMG in the kinetic slots with the origin trait Hakke Breach Armaments. Now I bring that up because there's lots of benefits from Hakke Breach Armaments, and again, one day we're going to make a breakdown of all the benefits from Hakke here. Court actually had an entire breakdown going over all the benefits with that increase in damage against vehicles, constructs, barricades, turrets, etc. It's a good trait, and it's making me want to build this SMG into being a PvE SMG. I'm already looking at Feeding Frenzy multi-kill clip, Vorpal Feeding Frenzy, Rampage Feeding Frenzy. You also have Surrounding on this weapon, Wellspring, and you can do a combination like Wellspring and Well-Rounded, which is really going to synergize nicely with your abilities. And then for PvP, you can never go wrong with a Tunnel Vision multi-kill clip roll. Would I have preferred kill clip? Yeah, but multi-kill clip it is. Now, is this going to be the go-to SMG now, with the likes of Multi-Mac getting a nerf as well as Shiura? Personally, I've been steering away from 600s. Granted, this one has consistency, but other weapons have gotten buffs, range buffs at that. Other SMGs, that is. So we're going to have to just test it out. In that kinetic slot, though, I'm going to be keeping my eyes on Huckleberry, but we'll see how Enyo feels. Moving on, we have Strident Whistle. This is a bow in the energy slot that deals solar damage. Some potential synergy here, fellas. This is also a precision frame bow, and it comes with the origin trait Vanguard's Vindication. Now, for PvE, there is so many combinations to go for. Archer's Tempo, successful warm-up, explosive payload, Archer's Tempo. You even got Shoot to Loot on it. And you also have a new trait called Incandescent. Defeating a target spreads Scorch to those nearby. More powerful combatants and opposing guardians cause Scorch in a larger radius. Such an interesting trait, right? That in combination with something like Well-Rounded. I'm already looking at a well-rounded incandescent combo. Maximum stacks of Scorch. Also applying things with our melee. This is looking to be a bow we can easily use to build craft with. Now next, Wizened Rebuke. This is an Iron Banner fusion rifle, and it's a high impact. Now again, high impacts actually got a small buff. They used to be 1,000 or 1 second charge time. Now they're 960 milliseconds. Now all fusion rifles by default should have more recoil now. Granted though, I think Wizened Rebuke has the trait combination to combat that. One being Iron Grip for that big bump there in stability. The other being Under Pressure. That combination together, guys, would be a very nasty one for PvP. Now for PvE, I'm looking at Subsistence, successful warm up together. I'm also looking at Vorpal on this thing with Subsistence. Corner Subsistence. You even got Well-Rounded in there. I will say though, DPS testing way back when, high impacts were not good. So with that being said, look at this fusion rifle more as a PvP fusion. Moving on to Nezarec's Whisper. This is an Arc Energy Glaive and gorgeous, man. Also comes with that extrovert origin trait. I will say if there's any weapon type that should be interesting you right now, it's glaives, man. Glaives have had a big change. Their projectile speed has been increased. They also had their melee damage versus PvE enemies increase and reduce the energy drain speed while shielded. Overall, glaives should be feeling a lot better. Now, some trait combinations I want you to look at. Frenzy, Impulse Amplifier. Had a lot of people say they love that combination. You also have adaptive munitions on this thing, which don't overlook. There were many times in Grandmaster content where adaptive munitions was a great perk to have. You also have Vorpal there, and considering we have champion mods for glaives again this season, Vorpal is a great combination to go. We also have Adrenaline Junkie with Demolitionist, which is a trait combination we can't overlook. And again, the combination of adaptive munitions and Genesis would be a very interesting one. Outside of that, the quirky trait combo that I want to look at is tilting at windmills and unstoppable force. Again, increase in projectile damage by 30% while blocking, and the other one giving you increased mobility while blocking. Seems like a pretty neat combination. Moving on, we have Horus Lease. This is arguably one of the most exciting weapons, or at least one of the weapons that I'm most excited about coming to us this season. This is one of the best feeling rapid fire pulse rifles to ever grace our hands. And not only is it returning, but an adept version of it is also returning. Now it's going to come with the origin traits like Stunning Recovery and Vanguard's Vindication. And right off the bat, let me just tell you the trait combinations that are just jumping out to me. If you love fluidity and you want this rapid fire pulse rifle to feel fast in your hands, perpetual motion all day long, combine that with kill clip, it should be a dream come true. However, if you're a controller player and you're looking for just stability, then I would say Zim Moment kill clip is also a great combination. Now for PvE, you've got perpetual motion, Vorpal, perpetual motion, Frenzy. I think those are really, really good. Again though, PvP is primarily where Horus Lease will most likely shine. Not saying it won't be good in PvE, but in PvP is where it's gonna pop off. Now moving on to the Scout Rifle Staccato. This is a solar scout rifle, shoots at 180 rounds per minute, and yep, it's giving you some of those Tango flashbacks, right? I know, man. It's been a minute, huh? What was the other one, guys? Was it Tone Patrol? I think that was the other one. Actually, some pretty good feeling scouts. No lie. Now, it comes with the Sura Synergy origin trait, where it grants the weapon bonus handling and reduce incoming flinch after reloading. Obviously, the combination of that and compulsive reload is really, really good. Now, you can take that approach with like explosive payload and just automatically have a flinch machine that combats the hell out of flinch, right? But for PvE, I'm actually looking at this weapon, man. Incandescent looks good. That in combination with triple tap or outlaw or maybe even well-rounded or even shoot to loot. Again, shoot to loot is such a good trait. Don't overlook it. It's good. Trust me. Overall, I'm excited to try this scout rifle out. Moving on, we have Dead Weight. This is an energy shotgun, a rapid fire frame at that. And yep, it looks very much like the Hawthorne shotgun, right? Hawthorne was one of the best feeling shotguns in the game, and this one came with Invader Tracker. Damaging the Invader with this weapon marks them for allies. Now, Hawthorne was one of my favorite shotguns back in PvP, which is why I'm really going to be looking for that full choke accurized round roll with a number of different combinations, whether it's steady hands, perpetual motion, snapshot, swashbuckler, hell, even a harmony roll. I think this is going to be a very good shotgun even inside of PvP. You also got surplus on this weapon. I really think this is going to be such a fluid shotgun for you, especially if you have like that snapshot full choke combo. This weapon should feel really, really good. Now again, don't overlook traits like Demolitionist. We are in Solar 3.0, and between Solar and Void 3.0, I'm liking the grenade combinations that I have. So having something like Demolitionist feeding into my ability energy is really nice. Now for PvE, Vorpal is on this weapon, but again, it's a special, so it's only doing 15% more damage, which is still very good. You also have 1-2 punch, and you can never go wrong with another 1-2 punch shotty if you don't already have one. Swashbuckler is also on this weapon with Grave Robber, Surround It, Golden Tricorn. And again, we may be in a situation like next season where we have champion mods for shotguns. So having an auto-loading Vorpal roll may prove to be very beneficial. But if you're looking to just really mess some people up inside of PvE, Frenzy Fill Prep or Frenzy Subsistence, there's a lot of great combinations to go here on Dead Weight. Moving on, we have Without Remorse, a beautiful energy shotgun, and it's a lightweight frame shotty at that. Now, lightweights, they're my favorites, primarily for the movement buff, right? Now, I said that Dead Weight was the Hawthorne shotgun reincarnated, but it's actually Without Remorse. Now, this shotgun is very interesting. Again, we have Incandescent on this weapon. I'm interested to see what that Scorch combo is like. You also have Fill Prep on it, Vorpal 1-2 punch, Turnabout. But for PvP, I really don't know what direction to go here. I'm probably going to want a full choke accurized round roll, but the trait I'm probably going to be looking at is Fragile Focus. This weapon gains bonus range until the wielder takes damage. The bonus returns when no damage is taken for a short duration. Here's the thing. This is obviously all for naught if you're taking damage, but if you're rushing in, you're closing that gap effectively, and you take no damage, maybe that bonus range is going to make up for the range nerf that all shotguns just felt. Again, though, we'll have to see. Hipfire Grip is also an interesting one. I don't normally hipfire with a shotgun, at least effectively, but maybe Hipfire Grip would allow me to effectively use my shotgun from the hip. Outside of that, though, Threat Detector is a really nice one to just kind of let you know how many enemies are on the other side of the wall before making that push. Moving on, we have Drang. Fellas, break out those Sturms because Drang is back. And yes, it too has the 2XS origin trait. And this weapon comes with Disruption Break, which is always a great combination, guys, for PvE and even for PvP. But for PvE, I would look at that Disruption Break Vorpal weapon combo for that eventual anti-barrier sidearm. Dude, you want to rock Sturm inside of PvE? Rock it with a Disruption Break Drain. This weapon also comes with Incandescent, and I feel like we've been speaking about this trait from the perspective of PvE, but we can use Incandescent inside of PvP. It actually grants grants a larger radius when defeating guardians. Now, quick draw is also on this sidearm, which is really nice, especially if you're doing like a sniper sidearm combo. You also have moving targets, which is great for those duels. Do moving target rampage or even moving target swashbuckler. And if you're looking for something to really help you, especially when you're taking damage, Eye of the Storm on this weapon is going to be so good. Either way it goes, fellas, this is a very, very good sidearm. It also sits at 14 zoom, so it has higher range than most. So I'm excited to see how Drang performs. Moving on, we have Forgiveness. This is an energy sidearm from Trials of Osiris. I know it looks like Smugglers with a new coat of paint, and yep, you're kind of right. It does look a lot like it. But considering this is a 2-round burst sidearm, I'm already looking at rapid hit, man. Let's proc those rapid hit stacks quickly with each burst. I want to hit that high stability as fast as possible. So I'm actually looking at rapid hit, moving targets, and maybe rapid hit killing wind or rapid hit air assault, if air assault proves to be a super beneficial perk or not. And again, mainly with things like Icarus Dash or maybe even on Hunter. And I was noticing earlier, my inner accuracy did not feel that good. So having something like air assault may be one of the only ways my inner accuracy feels good enough to take to the air. You also got Harmony on this weapon, and again, Harmony actually is pretty good on a sidearm, especially if you're leading off with a sniper rifle or some other special weapon. You get a one-hit kill and then swap off to the sidearm. Boom, you've got 20% more damage. Combine that with the likes of Killing Wind, and you'll be able to follow up with a bump there in range after every kill. Now, let me just say this about Forgiveness. It was the same with Smugglers and really just any 2-round burst sidearm. It's either really good or really bad. There is no in-between, guys. In PvE, you can get away with pretty much anything as long as it's got good traits. Like, I like Vorpal and Subsistence on this thing. Demolitionist is also on this weapon. You can combine that with Adrenaline Junkie. But for PvP, these 2-round burst sidearms, it's either really good or really bad. Moving on, we have Beloved. Yes, Beloved has returned to us. Is it as meta as it was before? Well, I will say this. The weapon is craftable, so we will have even nastier versions of this sniper rifle. I know we're just covering the base form of all these weapons and their base traits, but again, craftable ones are obviously going to be better, including the likes of Snapshot Moving Target. Now, Bungie does state that weapons should be, or at least sniper rifles should be feeling snappier. Therefore, we don't need Snapshot. So it does make me wonder, can we get away with Firmly Planted and Moving Targets? Just a thought, guys. I know my Snapshot loyalists out there, you're like, hell no, Cross. Never. I'll never put Snapshot down. But it's just a thought, and I'm curious to try it. And if not Snapshot, maybe Surplus. And then, of course, you also have Quick Draw on this thing. So maybe a Quick Draw, Firmly Planted roll. But again, Quick Draw for me has kind of lost its appeal since its big nerf a year and a half ago. And then, of course, we have the oddball there, which is Incandescent, with those Scorch stacks exploding after defeating a combatant or a guardian. I'm curious about this, fellas. I don't know. Maybe that's the way to go. Now, there has been some flinch reworks, which means our sniper rifles should be receiving a lot more flinch. Pretty much all of our special weapons. So no distractions may be the go-to choice here. Now, for PvE, 4 times a charm, Rampage. You also got Turnabouts, Box Breathing, and of course, Incandescent as well. Either way, though, Beloved is looking very good for this season. Moving on, we have Gallu RR3. This is an Arc Energy Sniper Rifle, and it is an Amalon Sniper. And it also has the Amalon Fluid Dynamic Origin trait, with the top half of the magazine has increased reload speed and stability. Now, for PvP, Snapshot, no distractions. That's kind of the combination that I'm looking at. This is, of course, an adaptive sniper rifle, so its zoom sits at around 40, which is pretty low, matching that of even Beloved. So the weapon should be pretty easy to land those shots with. But again, all of that is very subjective on these sniper rifles, right? I will say this, though. Considering it has increased stability due to that Amalon Fluid Dynamic trait, stability does counter flinch. So maybe having that high flinch will allow it to have flinch resist, or at least better flinch resist. For PvE, I mentioned it a second ago, but that shoot to loot is so good. You also got Golden Tricorn, Dragonfly is also on this weapon, and of course, Overflow. And for some of those looking at this, asking about Focus Fury and Overflow, that's a combination that I think still doesn't work properly. Like if Focus Fury would just proc on the base amount of ammo on a weapon, and then Overflow would allow it to continue with that buff. But I hear there's some issues with the synergy there. Not something I've tested directly though. Now moving on, we have the Calus Mini-Tool. This is an energy submachine gun, and like Sturm and Drang, it too pairs with another primary weapon, that being Mida Multi-Tool. Again, Mida Synergy increases the speed of this weapon when paired with Mida Multi-Tool. Now this weapon also comes with the 2 excess origin traits. We've got combinations like Disruption Break on this thing, Slideways, Threat Detector, Feeding Frenzy, Surrounded, Incandescent. But for PvP, I'm actually really curious, especially in the enhanced form of Moving Target, tap the trigger, right? Like, let me see that combination. Let me break out that Mida Multi-Tool. Let me straighten this thing out and see if we can go back to a double primary system. Other combinations I want to look at though is an Eye of the Storm roll, and maybe like an Eye of the Storm Moving Target or an Eye of the Storm Air Assault. Again, both of these perks activating as your health goes lower. One boosting that airborne effectiveness, thus your accuracy. The other one outright boosting your accuracy. Maybe a very deadly combination when shooting from the air. Now next we have Hero's Burden. This was actually one of my favorite SMGs back in year 1. This is another 900 round per minute SMG, and being an Iron Venom weapon and a Suros weapon, it has both the Skulking Wolf origin trait and the Suros Synergy origin trait. Now being an Iron Venom weapon, it has access to the Iron Venom perks, things like Iron Reach and Iron Grip. Now Iron Reach used to be the default trait that many of us would choose on an SMG. Look no further than, of course, Multimac. However, stability is a trait we can no longer overlook, even on mouse and keyboard. Personally, I like the combination of Kill Clip and, of course, Tunnel Vision. You also have Air Assault on this weapon too. And we also have a new trait called Repulsor Brace, where defeating a void debuff target grants an overshield. A really interesting trait there, right? Axiom Bolts, get the track off, then follow up with Hero's Burden to get the kill. Boom, you're granted an overshield. Now, I don't think it's going to be much of an overshield. If it is substantial though, I will be using this trait. Another role to look at is, of course, Eye of the Storm on this weapon. And if you're on controller, Zen Moment Eye of the Storm. And for my PvE players, Vorpal on this weapon all day long with Feeding Frenzy. Next, we have Hollow Denial. Now, Hollow Denial is the new Trace Rifle for this season. It too comes with the origin trait Extrovert. And of course, we have Overload rounds for Trace Rifles as an artifact mod. Now, this weapon also comes with Repulsor Brace. We're defeating those void debuff targets, grant an overshield. But probably the one that's standing out the most right now is Killing Tally. That's right, Killing Tally is back. This was one of the best traits in the game, and it was only present on 21% Delirium back in the day. But kills increase the weapon's damage until it is stowed or reloaded. The main thing about this is how can we work around it? And already, Lead from Gold may be our best option. We're picking up heavy ammo, will grant ammo to the weapon, and bypass resetting Killing Tally, in theory at least. Really want to try that combination out, guys. Killing Tally is such a good trait, and again, we're going to be able to actually craft this weapon. So we're going to be able to craft an enhanced version of it. It's not 21% Delirium, but close enough, man. Next, we have Chain of Command. This is a machine gun, and yes, we do have artifact mods for machine guns this season. This is actually the Ritual weapon. It deals kinetic damage, and it has 3 different origin traits: Vanguard's Vindication, One Quiet Moment, and Invader Tracker. Now, this weapon comes with 2 traits in those final columns to choose from. Adrenaline Junkie Demolitionist is a very good combo. Osmosis is actually really good depending on burns, right? And you also have Adaptive Munitions, which is so good against shields that don't match your weapon's damage type. Either way it goes, we'll see how this one performs. We'll probably be doing a review on this one at some point this week. Next, we have Bump in the Night. This is a rocket launcher in that aggressive frame archetype with that Extrovert origin trait, and it deals stasis damage, which automatically I feel like I'm already looking at Chill Clip and Auto-Loading Holster, which is really good for run and gun. You also have Chain Reaction on this weapon, and you can do Chain Reaction, Auto-Loading Holster as well, or even tracking. And then you've got Vorpal, Field Prep, Frenzy's also on this thing. Vorpal is not bad still. Like, I know a lot of people think that Vorpal is just garbage, but it does offer 10% more damage. Outside of that though, I'm really interested in that Chain Reaction or Chill Clip combo. Well guys, those are your weapons. But before I let you go, let's take a quick look at the exotics for this season. One of them is Second Chance. These are actually Titan Gauntlets with the exotic perk Myrmidian's Reach. And I hope I'm saying that right, but if not, oh well. You gain a second charge of your shield throw melee, which becomes shield piercing and stunts. This stunts barrier champions, by the way. Now the question that comes up for me is, how many shield throws does it take to stun a champion? And of course this changes depending on like Master or Grandmaster, but if it is able to stun in a single shield throw, then it is worth exposing yourself to get that throw off. If not though, and you got to do like 2 melees, man, that's going to be tough, right? Next we have Caliban's Hand. These are Hunter Gauntlets, and it comes with the trait Roast 'em. Your proximity knife scorches targets it damages with its explosions or ignites targets on direct hits. Again, leading into those keywords. After throwing a proximity knife, you gain increased melee regeneration until the knife explodes. Honestly, with like max strength, you're probably just gonna get your knife back, right? Until it explodes. So the longer it sits out there, in theory, the more energy you get back. The next is the Warlock Leg Armor. These come with the perk Soaring Fusilier. Air dodge reloads all of your weapons and improves airborne effectiveness of fusion rifles and linear fusion rifles. final blows of these weapons make you radiant. All right, a lot of things happening here. A lot of synergy. Linear fusion rifles. You'll be able to use them from the air. Obviously, Lawrence Driver, Heat Rises, Icarus Dash, floating in the sky. I think you see where we're going with this. But again, there's other combinations. Even taking a normal fusion rifle and going up into the air, right? And shooting someone that's trying to rush you. And again, all of this is going to benefit you. And taking to the air and getting those final blows will make you radiant on top of that. So many things to synergize this season, fellas. We're going to be making lots of Solar 3.0 builds. For those wondering, what about the dungeon weapons? Yes, we do have dungeon weapons, and we will go over it. We've got a pulse rifle, a submachine gun, a grenade launcher, the Epicurean fusion rifle, and fixed odd machine gun. Those are going to be dropping from the dungeon, as well as a new linear fusion rifle. We do not have access, though, to the random rolls, so we can't really discuss which rolls to go for. But regardless, this Friday, the dungeon should be dropping, and we should be getting these weapons in our hands very soon. Well, fellas and ladies, thank you all for coming and watching, and as always,
Slap that like button like your mama told you right.